Hey everybody, this is Tell the Truth Sports Radio. I'm your host, Ron Fitch, and I tell you the truth. And I'm going to stick with my guns all the time when I tell you the truth. And it was defense why OKC won the championship 103-91. Their defense. They finally paid attention to O'Connor. O'Connor went off on Wallace for a little stretch, but they dug in defensively on his drives. They challenged the little wide open shots he was getting. Now he looked nervous in the first. Everybody was nervous in the first half. It was just a clunky half. Indiana led. If Haliburton doesn't get hurt, Indiana has a sizable lead in the first half. The way OKC was playing. Second half, third quarter, it started to turn with turnover after turnover, and they were O'Connell was going off, but they were turning over too, and they had some bad turnovers, some very very bad turnovers. Once it got to 75 with a Wallace after a steal from O'Connell, and they got up 9, and then they got up 11 on a 5-second violation. It was the breather room they needed, and then it ended up going up 18, and then Indiana's climbing back because of Matherin, who was the guy who was the leading scorer off the bench, 24 points. O'Connell caught fire in the third quarter, but he looked a little gassed, and they didn't get anything from their front court. Turner was meh. They were really guarding Siakam. They doubled him. They attacked Siakam. So he was only going to be able to get 16. Nimhard was 4 of 10. He threw up a couple lucky threes. And Haliburton was the key because Haliburton was okay in game 6. It looked like he was kind of getting the sea legs, but then he drove, hurt his calf early, and they were up 14-10, and they were like there. I said, okay, they might get this. And they stayed in the game because of their true grit and they're just hard nosed and they're blocking shots on a fast break. Just Turner and Siakam defending, just true grit with O'Connell. And then when he wasn't doing it, what hurt them is Nesmith was terrible. Fouled out, committed bad fouls. That hurt them because he's usually able to get a couple of corner threes. He was terrible. But they played all the way to the end, hard nosed, but it wasn't enough because OKC defense was better. As great as Indiana defense was, OKC was the best defensive team in the league, and it was a great team. It was the sole reason turning Indiana over because their offense was stagnant. SGA was pulling up. Jalen Williams was okay, but SGA was missing 3 after I think he was 2 of 12. SGA 2 of 12 from 3. He kept shooting them, and there was no. I mean, have Holmgren dive to the basket, drive. It was a mess. But Lou Dort was an unsung hero. He's plus 12. Got 9 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. I mean, he was just hustle plays. The one play where Indiana could have cut the lead to 9, O'Connell's driving, and you're thinking, okay, here comes O'Connell. He's gonna drive for 11 or dish for a wide open 3. Dort dove for the steal from behind and it stabilized. After that, the game was over. That was the biggest play of the game when he stole the ball from O'Connell, and then they're able to get double digits and as hard as Indiana trying. No more good fortune. Because in game 1, they had the good fortune. Turner was hitting bank shot threes. Obi Toppin was launching threes, making all Larry Bird like shots. Obi Toppin was bad. Obi Toppin was like one of the best players on the team in this series. Obi Toppin, they attacked Obi Toppin. And one thing I like what they did, he had 0 points, -13 rating. What OKC did, they dug up in Obi Toppin. They said, you're going to drive. And when he drove, here comes a double because he's not a guard. He's fumbling with the ball. And they took away every 3-point opportunity. So now the shot clock's going down. He's, okay, I'm a little bigger than Caruso. I'll drive on him. I'll drive on Dort. Nope, Dort's too strong. And you don't, without the post game, even when Indiana was bigger, because they don't do that, their inside game was O'Connell. Like Miles Turner, if you just had and they need to bring the post. That's why Denver was so good. That's why Denver gave OKC so much trouble. OKC was much better, but the Joker was fantastic. And then they just ran out of gas in Game 7. And credit OKC, they're the champs. And they listen with KD going to Houston for Green and Brooks, a good move. Brooks is a knucklehead. You're trying to win a championship. Send a knucklehead to Phoenix. Phoenix on draft picks. They'll probably get rid of them. KD going to Houston. Amen Thompson's the new Siakam. They're long. They have a great big. Steven Adams is solid. They have a championship point guard. They have a nice bench. Ime Udoka is one of the best coaches in the entire sport. And you have KD, even though he's a little older, doesn't have the same impact. That veteran presence, that little extra shot making at the end of the quarter, end of the shot clock. OKC's young. And they're level-headed. I like how hungry and they were able to, as immature as they were, they're young. One of the youngest teams since the 1977 Blazers. And there was Walton got hurt. They were the end of the Blazers. But this team has got a chance. And I keep the core three and mix and match. When contracts come up, you go grab role players. But Caruso was the unsung hero of this game with his hustle and his defense, his ability to guard bigger players. Fantastic job by Caruso. Now they got really goofy at the end. Their half-court offense was OKC's was kind of a mess because SGA was missing shots and they weren't spacing. And then Jalen Williams bailed them out a couple of times from nice drives. But their offense was off turnovers and fast breaks. And they gutted out a win. And the key for Indiana, if Indiana would have held on in Game 4, they win this series in 6. When Indiana, because they were the OKC could afford to goof up and mess up in Game 1 because it was a long series. But Game 4, Indiana, the way OKC was shook and the way how great Indiana played at home, when they blew that fourth quarter lead, it gave OKC the confidence to think we're going to win this because there would have been so much pressure down 3-1, even going back at home with a young team, and Indiana thinking they're a team of destiny. Indiana's going to rue the day that blew Game 4. They're going to be thinking about Game 4, not this game. And then we're thinking about Haliburton. If Haliburton was healthy, I think Indiana might have won this game if he was healthy. I really do. The way they were scratching and clawing. But you know what happens? Isaiah got hurt. Magic got hurt. Things happen. There's injuries that take place, and eventually it's just not your time. But I will say this about Indiana. If they can recover from this series, because they lost to Boston in the playoffs, in the conference championship, they got to the finals, lost. The next step is winning. If they could somehow come out of the East, keep the same team, but the only thing is got Haliburton, I got to know if it's his Achilles or his calf. If it's his Achilles, that's going to hurt Indiana. Because Detroit's getting better. You see my picture here with Cade Cunningham. Detroit's coming. And then the Knicks might make moves if they get the right coach. And they're going to look to finally break through against Indiana. They're going to build a team to beat Indiana. So Indiana is now the hunted. Now I got to see status of Haliburton. If he could come back next year and they get back here next year, they could take it. But I got to see his status for next year. But okay, see, I wonder. I'm getting ahead of myself. I wonder if the Rockets and OKC is the next rivalry. Now the West is tough. I want to see what Golden State's going to do because they always have something up their sleeve. Other than that, you have good teams. Denver's good. You have good teams. LA is okay. Minnesota is good, but I got to see who they keep and what moves they make. It seems like what Houston did. We're looking at Houston and OKC, maybe possibly the next rivalry in the West. As far as the East, not sure. I'm looking forward to the draft too.